we kept sitting there, and the organizers announced to them saying that, we don't have any weapons, we are not fighting you, please, we have injured people here, we need medical help. And where I was at this point, we had 2 dead bodies there, and there were other people who were bleeding. And so for about 1 hour, we pleaded to the Israeli army, asking them to please provide medical assistance. One of the women also came up with a poster handwritten saying, SOS, we need your help. We have people dying here, we need medical help. And they kept on just telling her to go away and go away. Finally, after 1 hour, they opened up the door and they were pointing their guns, and they said that we want you to bring out your injured, 1 person at a time. And they actually selected 2 women to bring out the injured people. So gradually we started bringing out the injured people. Simultaneously, they told each one of us to come out with our hands on our head. So we did that. As soon as we went out, they frisked us, they checked us, they took out all the belongings that we had, and they basically tied our hands behind our back and told us to go to the main deck. So 1 person at a time, we went up to the main deck. We were made to kneel down on our knees facing the wall. When I arrived there, this was about daytime, and I saw around me at least 6 Navy ships, along with at least a dozen small Zodiacs that were basically patrolling our ship. And at this point, the ship was moving. So we were led to the main deck. We were made to kneel down for at least 6 hours. We stayed in that position. People were not allowed to go to the bathroom. People were basically passing out. They were falling on their sides. Some of their people, their hands were tied extremely tight, and it was a very, very difficult situation. At about 1:30 in the afternoon, so this happened at close to between 7:30 and 8 o'clock, close to about 1:30, they told us all to get up and go down to the main floor, to the main sitting area where we had already been sitting. We went down and saw that they had basically ransacked the whole place. They had taken down the curtains, they had pulled the seats apart, our luggage was all over the place. They were I guess checking for explosives or whatever they were looking for, and they told us to sit down. Still our hands tied. Now, I just like to mention here that while we were up on the deck, helicopters were continuously over us. They were transporting more soldiers. They were taking some of the injured and the dead bodies. Most of the people who were transported were the ones with gunshot wounds. So they were taken away. At about 1:30, as I said, we came down. They told us to sit down. And we just sat there with our hands tied. At about 6 o'clock, we reached Ashdod, which is a port city. We could see land at about 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock. As we got to the port, they made an announcement. Some of the people came into the ship. I guess these were people from the immigration. They said that they're from the Ministry of Interior. They said the army has done its job. Now you'll be handed over to the Ministry of Interior as you go on board. And these people were, I guess, some very professional, perfect English, very polite. They said to us that, from here you'll be taken outside within 20 minutes. You will be provided with medical care, you'll be provided with food, and right after that you'll be deported to your relevant countries, either by land or by air. Now, at this point in time, we had thought that there was about 3 people killed, because that's what we saw. As you might know, that we had one of the members of the Knesset with us, Hanin Zobi. She was basically, they couldn't arrest her, so she was a liaison between us and the soldiers. At this point, she came to us and told her that about 19 people had been killed. And that was a huge shock for us, because we couldn't, we had seen 3 dead people. And she said 19 have been killed and close to 100 have been injured. So that was a big shock for us. We stayed sitting in that position inside once the ship was docked for another 4 to 5 hours. In my case, about 4 hours. Kevin was there for about 12 hours. Finally, they processed us out. Once again, they tied us extremely tight in my case. They looked at my passport, they said, well, you're Canadian, have you told them that you're Canadian? I said, never asked me. And at this point, they had tied my hands extremely tight, and I told the guard, I said, could you please loosen this, because my hands are turning purple, there's no blood circulation. He looked at me and he said, no, and he said, enjoy yourself, and he just sort of kicked me out. And so as we got out, there was a huge crowd there. People were cheering, people were happy, there was media, there was press. And so for each person, we had one young soldier from the Israeli Navy and one policeman who basically took us into the processing area. Once we got there, once again, they looked at my passport. They saw that I worked in Qatar. I was born in Pakistan, so that was kind of confusing for them. So they said to me, what were you doing going to Gaza? And I said, well, we're on a humanitarian mission. And his response was, do you believe in the state of Israel? And I just kind of looked at him, and he said, well, we're a humanitarian country, can't you see that? So I just sort of stayed quiet. I said, yes, I guess so. And so thereafter, I was taken into another area. It was strip searched. They looked at everything that I had, opened up my wallet, searched me, and they said, you're going to be deported. So here's a piece of paper, sign this. I said, what if I don't sign this? They said, well, then you'll be put in prison. So you sign this and you're going to the airport. I said, all right. So I signed it. Then they took us, many of us, to another sitting area. We sat there for another, close to maybe 2 hours or so. Now this one young guy who was with me, he's a young soldier, and he was holding on to my arm really tight. And I said, look, could you please let go? I mean, I'm not going to run anywhere. So he let go my arms, and then he said, he opened up my cuffs, and he said, I'm only going to open this if you're going to behave yourself. I said, yeah, sure, I'll behave myself. So he opened up my cuffs. After about 2 hours, they told us to get up, took us outside, and put us in a prison bus. Next thing I knew, at this point I hadn't slept for 2 days. As soon as I got in the bus, I fell asleep. I woke up. Next thing I knew, I was in a prison. We got out of the prison, we got out of the bus, taken into a main area. This was a common area that had prison cells around, and they basically told us, go inside the prison cell, go to sleep, and we'll talk to you in the morning. They brought in some fruits and vegetables and told us we wanted to eat something. Many of us said we want to see a lawyer, we want to see our embassy. They said we don't know anything. I asked them, I wanted to call my family. They said no, and they basically said, go to the cell. So we went into the cell, maybe slept for about 2-3 hours, got up again in the morning, asked the same question, we want to see a lawyer, we want to see our embassy, no response. At about 10 o'clock in the morning, they told everybody to get back into the cells. We went into the cells and they locked the cells. And next thing we knew, we had a group of students, no more than perhaps 18, 19, or 20 girls and boys who came in, and basically these were trainees of some sort, and they spent the entire day there looking at us, examining us, questioning some of us, and this went on for the whole day, so basically we were locked in. Later in the afternoon, I heard somebody say, is there somebody here from Canada? So I kind of got up, went to the door, I said, yes, I'm Canadian, and there were 2 people from the Canadian Embassy, and they said, are you Farouk Berni? And I said, yes. He said, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm here. They said, because they told us they deported you in the morning, and according to what the information they provided us, you've been deported to Canada. Well, I said, I'm still here. They said, well, it's by coincidence that we found you, otherwise we would have not known where you were. And then they showed me Kevin's photograph and said, do you know who this is? Do you know where he is? I said, I have no idea where Kevin is. So then they left, and that was the last time I heard from the Canadian Embassy. We stayed locked in for the whole night. 2 o'clock in the morning, they woke us up again and said all the Turkish people out. So there was a majority of Turkish people. They took all the Turks out. Our understanding was when we got in, being Canadian, American, British, that probably we'd be the first people out. But actually it was the Turks who went out first. Before that, it was also the Jordanians who went out. The Jordanian ambassador personally came into the prison, made sure all the Jordanians were out. He took with him all the people who did not have diplomatic ties with Israel. So people from Algeria, people from Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, all these people were taken by the Jordanian ambassador.